Good day, everyone. I'm excited to share some key strategies on preparing for and navigating through job interviews. Whether you're a fresh graduate, experienced professional, or an aspiring manager, these tips will guide you to success. We list these out as 9 steps to winning at interviews. We will discuss these 9 steps. Generally, as candidates, we tend to focus on a few steps, such as anticipating common questions, but ignore others, such as preparing questions for interviewers or sending a thank you note after the interview. I just want to emphasize that all 9 steps are important to ensuring that you have a good interview experience, and so does the interviewer. The first step is about understanding the role, and I'll get into details of all of these steps. You need to research the company, understand the industry and market that you're in. You need to prepare a set of stories, and we will talk about that. These are called star stories. We need to anticipate common questions as well as preparing questions for the interviewers. It's very important to ask questions in an interview because it's as much about your career as it's about the company finding the right sort of employee. Being professional and presenting yourself in a professional fashion is very important. In this day of virtual interviews, we'll talk about some of that. It's different from being in an offline, in-person interview, but it still requires a certain amount of focus. We need to be active listeners. We need to concentrate on what the person is telling us. Candidates need to showcase their relevant skills. Sometimes freshers think they have no skills, but they do, and we'll talk about those as well. And of course, following up on the interview, after you've left the venue, there's a set of steps that you can take to ensure that you still stay on the radar for the talent managers in that company. The first step, understanding the role. This is probably the most basic step, right? The candidates need to study the job description, right? Do you really understand what the job is about? Do you know what the requirements are in terms of skills, experience, education, expectation? Is it a 5-day or a 6-day week? I think sometimes we tend to miss these details in the job description. And if it's already there in the job description, well, you should not be asking that question in the interview. It becomes irrelevant. Most importantly, you need to ask yourself if this is the role for you. Do you have the right skills and experience for this role? Can you commit a few years of your life to this role? Will this role put you on track for whatever career goals you have in mind? And, do you really understand what this job entails and how it impacts the larger company? The question being, is this a role that's meaningful enough for the company or will become meaningful enough for the company in future? That's an indication of how important this role is for the company. Is it core to them, not core to them? And it's just about you taking an informed decision on what this role is all about and whether you have the skills and experience for it. The second step is researching the company and industry, right? I've interviewed numerous candidates, more than uh, um, I've interviewed numerous candidates, right, who don't know enough about the company. They don't know what industry the company is in. They don't know what the revenue of the company is. They don't know who the CEO of the company is. They don't know how long the company's been around, how many employees it has. And these are basic questions that I would expect a candidate to know when they walk in for an interview, especially if they are keen on the job. And let's face it, the answers to these questions are very easy to find on the internet. It barely takes 2 to 3 minutes to run a quick search and maybe even 10-15 minutes of reading time, right? That's one. Know what this company is all about. And of course, if this company has been in the news recently, uh, it could be because they've done very well or they've done badly. They've had some new achievements recently. They've acquired some company, won a big deal. I think these are questions that you should know the answers to before you walk in for the interview. It's also good to know what the mission, values, and culture of the company are. There's a lot of reading material available. You can go onto Glassdoor, read reviews of the companies, find out what employees think. You can speak to someone at the company or a friend of a friend who works at the company to get first-hand knowledge of what it's like to work at that company. And you should also know the industry and market trends. Is this industry growing? For example, are you going into a diesel car company where everything else is going electric? Is this how is this company positioned within the industry? Is it a market leader? Is it lagging but on a good growth path, or is it a company that's dying out? I think these are important questions to ask even before you commit yourself to going in for the interview. Just keep in mind the fact that this job is as important. The decision you are going to take here is going to affect you for the next few years. And it's very important that you be informed and you know what you're walking into. Number three, prepare your star stories. What are star stories? In life, we always, we find ourselves in situations or we carry out certain tasks, actions uh, that have results. And we face this at work every single day, right? And these are situations that we need to talk about in these interviews, and they will come up again and again. So let's say the interview says, tell me about a time when you tried something and failed, or tell me about your greatest win or victory at work. Tell me about a sale you made that you thought was going to be lost, but you managed to convert in the last 5 minutes and made a huge difference to the sales figures for the company for that quarter. A time when you faced conflict within your team and how you resolved it. These are ways for the interviewer to judge a few things. Number one, have you experienced any of this at your workplace and how you responded to it, right? So it tells them a little bit about your personality, about how you handle wins and losses, conflict, whether you're able to speak with clarity on what your experience has been with the company, and whether you're able to express it clearly and draw insights from it. What did you learn from these experiences? Right? So I recommend writing down a list of 15, 20 such stories: wins, losses, conflict, times when you mentored somebody, somebody mentored you, how you improved the process, how you improved the system, um, how you helped somebody who you worked with but was facing some difficulty that work personally. I think these are important things for us to introspect on and talk about in the interview. And these questions are bound to come up. They're very popular now with interviewers. These are called behavioral questions often. And there are many resources on the internet where you can Google for a list of 50 or 100 behavioral questions. Write down the answers so you're absolutely clear about them when they come up in the interview. I wouldn't recommend memorizing the answers, but do write them down. It helps with more clarity on each of these. Anticipate and prepare for common questions. Now, this is different from the star stories. Those are your stories. These are common questions that companies or interviewers tend to ask you, either to break the ice. So it could be, tell me a bit about yourself, why you can, or it could be a little deeper around why this company, why are you considering a change at this point in time? What does your typical day look like? To, if I were to offer you this job at the same salary as your current one, would you take it? If not, why? If yes, why? So it's easy to anticipate and prepare for these questions. Uh, you can spend an hour listing out 15, 20 common questions that you faced in the past, even do a mock interview with a friend or a colleague. So you know what kind of questions people think of and ask. Point five, and in my mind, really one of the most important things that candidates and interviewers should do is prepare questions for the interviewer, right? From my personal experience, anytime I'm in an interview and the candidate, when I ask the candidate if they have any questions and they say no, they don't, my immediate thought is either the candidate is not prepared enough to ask me questions, They don't have the confidence to ask me a question, or they don't care enough about the company or the role to ask me a question. And for me, that candidate is a reject immediately, right? So when you do your research, I'm sure you'll find areas where you want to know a little more, right? What is the where does this company want to go? How is this org that you're going to be part of critical to the company? What kind of a career path can you expect within this company, right? How is this company different from its closest competitor? And if you can name the competitor, it's great, because then the interviewer knows that you've done your research and come. This is also the opportunity for you to show them that you've done your research, you know what's happening in the company, industry, or market, and therefore it demonstrates your insight, interest, and curiosity to the panelist. Number 6 goes without saying, be professional. Even if it's a virtual interview, you should look fresh, smart, well dressed. If you have to shave, if you have a beard, trimmed. Women, the same with, just presentation. Just make sure that, your hair is properly done. You're dressed. Typically, I always recommend dressing professionally, which would mean either a shirt or a collared t-shirt, depending on what kind of culture the company has. But in this day and age, it's not that important. Especially, I'm noticing that a lot of technical and product roles really, the interviewers are as casual as the candidate, right? Body language is super important. If you're meeting in person, and I'll talk a little more about that, uh, the way you stand, a firm handshake, the way you sit comfortably with your back straight, good eye contact, not fidgeting with your fingers or a pen. I think these are important ways to show the interviewer that you are a confident person, and that you are not nervous. You will be nervous, but there are ways to indicate that you're not nervous by just keeping control of some of these movements and your posture. Listening to what the interviewer says, well, listen actively. You need to concentrate on what they are saying. You need to understand the question or the comment. You need to respond to it, and you need to remember what you were asked or what you said a few sentences ago. If it helps to paraphrase the question, please do it, right? It's another way of telling the interviewer that you've understood the question, and give them the opportunity to correct you at that point, even before you start responding to the question, right? This will help you give far more accurate answers, and also indicate to the interviewer that you are a serious candidate for the job, right? It is extremely annoying for an interviewer if your answer is completely out of sync with the question. This is the way to make sure it doesn't happen. Showcase your skills. You could be a fresh graduate who thinks they don't have any skills, but anything you've done in your life, whether you've played sport, participated in extracurricular activities, helped organize an event or a college fest, done some online courses, volunteered at an organization or NGO. These are all skills. These are all life skills that we've picked up, and they are all relevant to the workplace. So do highlight these skills whenever you get an opportunity. It could be an inconspicuous question from the interviewer with regard to what you're good at, or it could even be part of the tell me a little bit about yourself response, right? If you're a manager, decision making, leadership, mentoring folks who are on your team, doing something beyond the scope of your role for the organization, are important skills that you should try to demonstrate. And there'll be ample opportunity in an interview to do that. That's why the previous question, active listening, will give you that opportunity to identify the right time and place to talk about your relevant skills and how they matter to this specific role. And finally, number 9, please thank the interviewer at the end. No matter how good or bad the interview was, basic courtesy is something that all of us should demonstrate. And don't forget to send a thank you email to either the talent acquisition person who's been in touch with you or the hiring manager. It shows good etiquette. This is an opportunity for you to reinforce your interest in this position. And it also gives you an opportunity to remind the interviewer of your qualifications, right? My skills, my education, my experience indicate I am a good fit for this role. And therefore, thank you for considering me. I hope you find that useful. Thank you so much for watching. And if you do have any questions, you can mail us and someone will be in touch. Thank you very much.